There are far worse things awaiting man than death. How's it going, everyone, and welcome back. Today, as promised from a video I posted a little over a month ago, today I am starting my first round of reviews of the Universal Monsters film series, a franchise that I have loved ever since I was a kid. Now this year I'm going to review around 16 films and then another round the next year and so on until I've gotten through all of them. Today we're starting off with Dracula. Dracula premiered in 1931 and was directed by Todd Browning, who also co-produced this film along with Carl Laemmle Jr. Now, technically Dracula wasn't the first in the Universal Monster films. Silent films like The Hunchback of Notre Dame and The Phantom of the Opera that came out in the 1920s are considered to be the first in this series. Both of those films starred the Man of a Thousand Faces, Lon Chaney, as the title roles. However, Dracula is the first legal and authorized film adaptation of the story, as the 1920s silent film Nosferatu, starring Max Schreck as Count Orlok, was not authorized and as a result suffered from a copyright lawsuit from Stoker's widow. Dracula is also the first Dracula film to use sound. The film was loosely based on both the original novel of the same name by Bram Stoker and a stage play by Hamilton Dean and John L. Balderston. Now, I actually did see that play around Halloween when I was younger, and I do remember all of the familiar elements that were featured in the film version. The film stars the iconic Bela Lugosi as Count Dracula, from his creepy mannerisms to his movements to his line delivery. Bela Lugosi's performance still holds up to this day. I know there have been many actors that have played Dracula, and some have even tried to mimic Lugosi in their performance. But regardless if Lugosi was the best actor to play Dracula or not, nobody, and I mean nobody, could play Dracula like he played him. Lugosi would inspire how the character would be perceived to this day when it comes to how he looks and how he sounds. Now, Lugosi didn't just play Dracula, he became Dracula, and his performance will be remembered for generations to come. And I even read that Lugosi stayed in character in between takes. And while he was on camera, he made a conscious effort not to blink to add to more of the creepy factor. So not only was he the king of vampires, but also the king of staring contests. I mean, I definitely wouldn't challenge him. Even before the film went into production, Bela Lugosi was no stranger to the role. He appeared as Count Dracula in the stage adaptation I mentioned earlier many times. But to play him on screen, he did have to make some financial compromises, as one of the ways he could convince the studio to cast him in the role was by agreeing to take a pretty extensive pay cut, which, while very unfortunate, I do, however, respect his commitment to the role. Now, as mentioned earlier again, the film's story deviates from the original novel, especially when it comes to the changes to the original characters and their roles in the story and their relationships to other characters. And on that note, there were just some characters that were just omitted from the movie altogether, like Arthur Homewood and Quincy P. Morris. But the film does consist of similar elements from the source material. It starts with an English solicitor traveling to Dracula's castle in Transylvania to finalize real estate documents, despite warnings from the locals of vampires in the castle. Now, in the novel, it was Jonathan Harker who traveled to Dracula's castle, and in this movie, it's Renfield, played by Dwight Frye. That's also when Renfield becomes a servant to Dracula. On a side note, this will actually be one of several roles Dwight Frye has played throughout the Universal Monsters series, but this one is my personal favorite, and in my opinion, it's his best performance. He really devoted a lot of energy to the role, and it definitely shows. Now, Dracula eventually travels via the Demeter to England, which was also in the original novel. He's traveling to his new property, Carfax Abbey in England, which adjoins the asylum of Dr. Seward, along with his daughter Mina, her fiancé John Harker, and her best friend Lucy, who becomes one of Dracula's victims. Professor Van Helsing, who was originally studying Renfield's blood, deduces that vampires are responsible for Lucy's death, and he also quickly discovers Dracula's true nature when he notices the Count has no reflection in a mirror. With Dracula's focus now on Mina, the others seek to destroy the vampire before she meets the same fate as Lucy and becomes an undead creature of the night. Despite being close to a century, the film Dracula still holds up to this day. I still find it to be very creepy and very chilling. Some of my issues with this film are just nitpicks, more or less. But it is worth mentioning that I did think that there were some performances from a few of the actors that were just a little over the top. Now, it did work out in some roles, in all fairness, like in Dwight Frye's portrayal of Renfield, where he, very convincingly I might add, played a very creepy and unstable madman. Now, despite the limitations on special effects in films during this era, the cinematography was pretty well done for the time. I mean, sure, you can definitely tell in the scene where Dracula appears as a bat that it's fake, and there was also a moment where Dracula became a wolf, but back then they couldn't show him turning into a wolf, so instead someone had to announce that they just see a large dog or a wolf on the lawn off screen. All things considered, though, they made the most with what they had back then, and I think the other spooky elements of the film and the convincing portrayal by some of the actors really made up for the limitations in the special effects. Now let's talk about the music, or lack thereof. There were only like 2 instances where you hear music playing in the film. The opening credits with the theme from Swan Lake by Tchaikovsky. The other music we hear is when Dracula is attending a concert where he meets the other characters. I'm going to be honest though, as much as I'm a sucker for film music, the lack of a score totally worked for this movie. It suited the eerie vibe and added another level of suspense, making it seem more realistic and bringing you more into the atmosphere. Now, if I was alive during this time and had any involvement with this production, the only thing that I would probably work to change was the runtime. It's not that long. It's only about an hour and 15 minutes. Now, I do understand that that was probably the norm back then, but the last half of this movie felt a little rushed. Once Dracula got to England, it went from point to point to point, and there were moments where, when it went into the next point, the moment before didn't really see any resolution. For example, in one point we see Dracula attacking Lucy, and in the next point we see Lucy dead, being examined, and then later we see Lucy resurrected and taking a lovely nocturnal stroll through the cemetery. But after that, it's really nothing. It's mentioned briefly, but nothing really ever comes of it, and it's not really resolved by the end of the movie. But despite those nitpicks, and again, they really are just nitpicks, Dracula from 1931 is a testament to not only vampire films, but to films in general. While some of us may not think it's scary, I did read that back then it did scare the crap out of people. And it became so successful that it was eventually re-released in theaters as a double feature after Frankenstein was released, which incidentally is going to be my next review coming up. So guys, comment down below. What are your thoughts on Dracula? Did you like it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Have you even seen this film? If not, I definitely recommend that you should, especially if you like vampires. And also comment down below, if you're a big fan of Dracula, who's your favorite actor to play him? But guys, thanks so much for checking out this video. I hope that you enjoyed it. And again, stay tuned for my next review in this series, which will again be Frankenstein. Be sure to hit that thumbs up and consider subscribing if you haven't already. Guys, have a great one.